Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to InfoQuench. I'm your host, Jeff.
And I'm Amy.
And this podcast, we're going to be talking about things that we've been watching.
Yeah, we're going to do a catching up episode. We're at episode 50, no, not 50 something.
60 something.
70 something.
Oh, 70 something.
70
there
something.
You go.
So every 25 episodes or so we do like a little bit of a catching up episode, and I thought we'd do that with this one and maybe talk a little bit about what we've been watching, because I think people...
Yeah, we have a tendency to be couch potatoes and binge watch certain shows and stuff, and so we just thought it would be fun to just share some of the shows that we've been watching.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what other people are watching, so I figured people would be interested in what we're watching too. And I also wanted to share just something that we did yesterday to kind of tackle our house. It's just like, it's just a little fun thing that we did to... Our house was a bit of a clutter fest post, COVID quarantining, and, spending a lot of time at home. I just found that we gathered a lot of things and that just needed a good going over. So we decided to dedicate an entire Saturday, and it was a sunny Saturday.
It was sunny, but a really, really warm. It
was incredibly hot.
Anyway,
so we cranked the air conditioning, and we...
I had a little misgivings about doing that on such a nice day, but the end result was pretty good. I brought a painting that I had been working on in secret from downstairs in the basement, and Amy actually loved it. We put it on our living room wall. Maybe we'll do a picture of it on our Instagram or something like that to show you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll use that as our photo for this episode. And really what we did is we just kind of keep it fun. We just took some old Post-it notes that had a little bit of sticky left in them, and we wrote... we divided our house into sections. So if it was a big room, that would be one section. So we would write maybe, living room.
45 minutes to finish it or something.
Our two parlors that make up our living room, or we would put, kitchen/laundry room, and just how many minutes we wanted to spend on each one. And then what we did is we basically took the Post-it, stuck it on the fridge when we were working on the room, set the timer, and spent only that amount of time on that section, and just... all three of us, Jeff and I and our son Hux, all went, Yeah,
it was fun. We gave Huxley little jobs and stuff, and he quickly
he was very good at...
Remember at one point he said he quit? I quit my job.
I know,
where did you learn that?
I quit my job.
At 7 years old.
I know.
How can you quit?
And he said he was just joking, but...
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
He's got a funny sense of humor, kid.
He did a lot of running for us. Kids are great for, when you're decluttering a room, a lot of times you'll find things that need to go into other spaces, right? You have to put things away, and it takes away from the time you have to focus on the room you're in. So he did a lot of the running for us, and it was great. And we got through pretty much everything. What ended up happening is we kind of have a catch-all room or studio, which ended up having a lot of the stuff that needs to get out of our house, a lot of the stuff that needs to be donated or recycled. And so I think we're going to have to dedicate it one day just to that one room.
Just to get rid of stuff that is in a room. Yeah. If you have a child, they go through phases where they don't play with the toys that they had because they get older and stuff. So you want to cycle that stuff out as quickly as possible to avoid clutter. That's my tip for the day, people.
And it's a good one.
It is a good one.
It was a fun time, though. I think it took us a while to get started, but one of the things that was important is we had music. So Jeff was in charge of the soundtrack for each room. Yeah. As we moved from space to space. I don't even remember what I played, just a little bit 70s and 80s hits, basically, just to kind of upbeat kind of stuff, And we had some rules around it. It's easy to get sidetracked, so I was trying to actually run laundry loads at the same time. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to focus on the room we were in, so, but I think it worked well, and I think we'll do it again. It was just I was impressed with how different our house looked after one focused day of the three of us working on it.
Yeah, everything was washed. Everything was KonMari'd, if you will, and everything seemed a lot cleaner.
Yeah, so we just wanted to share that just in case if you're, suffering from some COVID clutter.
Yeah.
Some of us
Spruce
stocked
up
up
your
on
space.
Extra supplies and things like that, so it just ended up with more things in our house. Yeah, I think a lot of people are focusing on their space now.
Mm-hmm.
I think
we are more than normal.
Definitely. I think people were quarantined at home for a while, and depending on where you're listening from, you may still be in that scenario where you're spending a lot of time from home, maybe still working from home. And I think because of that, people became more appreciative of their space and wanting to make it as comfortable and, as pleasant as possible.
I agree. Yeah, it's been a good experience. But what have we been watching on TV?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about being couch potatoes and enjoying entertainment.
I know. And we just got done watching a new series that was a 3-part series done by Amy Schumer called Expecting Amy.
Which was fantastic. It was really, really good. I feel like I understand her a little bit more as a person outside of being an entertainer, which makes a huge difference for me when it comes to personalities. Like to see that they're just like a regular person. I know that they have a camera on them and stuff, and there's a documentary being made about their lives, but like at the same time, it's interesting to see that she's just a regular person. She just she's I don't know. It's hard to explain really, but she just seems like a regular person.
Well, and I think if you haven't watched it yet, it was only released actually earlier this month. I do highly recommend it. I was kind of a lukewarm Amy Schumer fan. I know that there was controversy around her, stealing jokes a while back, and that really had put me off of her. But then I've seen her, her activism and being, using her voice and her following to really speak for some really important topics and push that. So I've definitely grown to have a different level of respect for her. And watching that series, Expecting Amy, was also interesting just from it really followed her full pregnancy and also her relationship with her husband. And talks about, how he was diagnosed later in life as being on the spectrum for autism, and how they were dealing with that, which I think a lot of people would find interesting. I think that piece alone. There's
a really interesting scene. I won't give anything away, but there's a really interesting scene where they talk about that and how her jokes influence her regular life. Like her. And it's really interesting, the conversation that she has with her husband about that. I found that really interesting.
Well, and the whole special really is leading up to her Netflix special, Growing, which was
in Chicago.
So when I remember watching that when it came out, and it was
you're a huge fan of hers, man.
Well, I do like her comedy, and it was a stand-up. Ooh, I wonder if that picked up on the mic,
absolutely.
But the traffic is going full tilt here.
That absolutely picked up for sure. Drag racing
down in front of her house. But so her special Growing on Netflix is, stand-up comedy. And I don't know what I thought they actually did for stand-up comedy specials on Netflix, but I just assumed that comedians were just regularly doing their regular scheduled programming. And then Netflix has said, okay, we're going to come to this show and film it, and that'll be a special. But I think when you watch this 3-part series, Expecting Amy, you realize that there's so much that goes into that.
Yeah,
I was really fascinated what goes into the process of developing an hour or so of content for
comedy
for
I know,
a Netflix special.
She was discussing like the very opening shot and how she wanted to show the audience, which was really interesting perspective. Just that she was involved with all that. You'd think that, because she's the celebrity personality, that she would leave all those nuts and bolts to the production team or something like that. But she was very hands-on and under extreme circumstances, let's be honest.
It was interesting to watch her ride. She would ride the subway to and from all of her shows, and she's a pretty successful comedian.
They did show her take a private jet, though, didn't they?
Yeah, I think she was in a private jet at one point.
She might have borrowed
whether it
one.
was hers or whether she hitched a ride. But she takes the subway a lot in New York. And because there's a focus on the pregnancy, there's just a little bit of a warning if you have a weak stomach. There is a lot of vomiting. She really sheds a lot of light and education around a condition known as hyperemesis. Hyperemesis gravidarum. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but hyperemesis is usually how it's referred to in short. And it's really when women kind of go, it's beyond morning sickness, but they are just incessantly vomiting. Kate Middleton, I think, had the same condition. And so she ends up hospitalized more than once dealing with that condition. And just, it made me admire what the strength it took for her to going through her pregnancy, but then also pull off a Netflix special. So the Netflix special, Growing, of course, is on Netflix, but Expecting Amy was something she did for HBO Max. So you'll have to find that one the way you find other things you don't subscribe to, if you know what I'm saying. But definitely worth the watch. And that's all I'm going to say about that one.
That was good. And we mentioned this in the previous podcast that we watched, the cooking show that she did with her husband, which is also fantastic. Because you can really actually make a lot of the dishes. They present the dishes very well.
And the drinks.
And the drinks, yeah. Amy's made a lot of the drinks. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that one as well. So I knew that I would enjoy this Expecting Amy one as well. So there's a few other shows we've been watching. One called Superstore that's on Amazon Prime, I do believe.
Yeah, it originally came out on NBC, and I don't know how we hadn't heard of it. It's actually been airing for quite a while.
It's like 8 seasons or something?
5 seasons, but it's been renewed already for a 6th. A coworker mentioned it to me. She said, if you like The Office, you'll love the Superstore. I mean, The Office, I think, is in a bit of a league of its own, but the Superstore is definitely...
Let's be honest.
It is. You see,
I have to say that I couldn't really get into that show. Like, no? I tried. I mean, the first 4 or 5 episodes were like... They were okay. There were some really good jokes and some good laughs, but I just found it far too formulaic, like in the deliverance of the lines and stuff and the characters and stuff. I don't know why I lost interest.
I think it is very closely trying to follow the formula of The Office.
Yeah.
Even with the relationships, I still enjoyed it though. It's a sitcom.
It's very quick. It's very
20-minute episodes.
It's highly unrealistic. Let's just say that too right off the bat. You know?
And the premise, I mean, Superstore. It's actually maybe it's you can tell by the name, but it follows a group of employees that are working at a fictional big box store, and
not unlike Walmart.
Exactly. I think it's even the color scheme looks like Walmart, and it's set in Missouri, and it stars Amy Ferreira, who you may remember from Ugly Betty.
Ugly Betty, right.
And also Ben Feldman. And I think he was... What was he from? I recognize him from something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've just lost it. But anyway, they're actually both producers as well on the show. So
is he the guy that looks like Scott Baio? The guy that's
the main
close friends with.
Yeah.
And then the kids in the hall. What's his name? Is in it as well. He's the manager.
Right. Glenn. The manager, Glenn.
Glenn, yeah.
I think it's worth a watch. I guess it's either your cup of tea or it isn't. I enjoy it. It's something that you can put on if you just want to watch a couple of light episodes.
They do cover
light comedy.
One thing that I will give them points for is they do cover like current issues. Like I watched the one about gun control or gun, lobbyists and not lobbyists, but like NRA type people, and it was very interesting the angle that they took on that, and then that was merged with something else in that was pretty heavy duty.
The morning after pill. Yeah, they definitely do take on some of that, and I laughed out loud I think I laugh out loud at least once at every episode. To me, that's enough. Like,
that is. You know me though. When I watch a show, I'm one of those people who don't just laugh out loud at things. I find it funny, but I don't like just laugh out loud. I don't.
No, you just look at me laughing out loud and judging them.
No, I just fine.
Just kidding. Speaking of laugh out loud, another one that made us laugh out loud, and I think we'll both agree on this one, is Middleditch and Schwartz.
Yeah, that's a great show. We still haven't finished them all, have we?
I think we have, yeah.
Okay.
So there's only 3 episodes on that one. This is on Netflix, so if you're on Netflix, easy to find. Middleditch and Schwartz. It's actually Thomas Middleditch, who starred in Silicon Valley, and then Ben Schwartz from Parks and Recreation.
Right.
And it's an improv-based show.
Improv in the respect of like improv theater, though. Like
right.
They have very minimal props. They have like I think 2 or 3 chairs, and that's all they have.
And they have a ton of talent.
But the concept of the show is really interesting because, I mean, not unlike theater games where you get ideas from the audience, it's very similar in that respect. And so that's how that one works. They say like, give us a scenario.
Yeah, kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
And
they did that.
blah, 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 blah. And then if they eventually, they don't get to everything straight away. They slowly sort of unfurl the story through improv and add different elements to the story that they were told by the audience member throughout the show, which is, to me, quite brilliant. And they do it really well. They hit all the beats at some point.
And I was skeptical at first, as I often am with improv. I figure they have planned something out ahead of time and it's not true improv. I don't know, the skeptic in me thinks that. But I forget, there was one of the 3 episodes that we watched that there was a point where they sort of had lost track of something or lost track of characters.
Oh, so is this the guy that we were talking about before, that his name's Tom? Or
I thought, the
guy before that was Tom, and then blah, 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 like, they're trying to figure it out. That's a really interesting point, because I love that they break the character. Like, they don't just stay in improv land. They're like, okay, middle ditch, like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, they'll have those conversations right on the stage to figure things out, and then go back into the improv, which is really smart.
And I think those types of conversations made me realize, okay, this is genuine, and there is genuine talent, and they're getting great reviews for what they've put out. Yeah. Hopefully they'll do more seasons.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so fascinating to see 2 people, just dressed like regular 2 guys coming in off the street, step onto a stage with 0 props, and entertain an entire theater.
They're in stitches, like, people are laughing, and it is
just with off the cuff
really
material.
Well done.
It's definitely
really
impressive.
Well done.
So again, that one is, I'll say this again, because I have a hard time every time Jeff and I get together with friends. I'm like, what's that show?
And I always
Middle
remember
Stitch and
Middle
Quartz
Ditch and Quartz.
No, so it's Middle Ditch and Schwartz
on that one's on Netflix.
On Netflix,
3 episodes, I do believe.
Yes, each under an hour.
So definitely check that out. It's good.
We think you'll like it.
Yeah, it is. I enjoyed it.
Let's talk about Alone.
Yeah, Alone. That's been a long time tradition in our family, watching that. And now Huxley is even getting into it. He loves watching it. And I don't know if it's the best thing for him, especially when they're skinning, like, rabbits. And
I think it's important for kids to understand where food comes from.
I think it might freak him out a bit, though. Like, just like seeing all that gore.
Has he said anything?
He hasn't. No, and he does really enjoy it, though. And it's a really interesting concept, because they changed it up this season. Usually it's like whoever can last to the end. Well, if you last to the end, which is 100 days in this season, then you get $1 million.
Yeah, maybe I'll just talk a little bit about the premise of the show.
Yeah,
because
go for it.
If people haven't heard about it, it's on the History Channel, and it's essentially people go out into the wilderness and they have to survive all on their own, hence the name Alone. Now, it's different than a lot of other shows like Survivor or Naked and Afraid, or is it Naked and Afraid?
I think so.
Anyway, but a lot of times when they do those shows, there's entire film crews. So even though they're sort of left to their own devices to look after themselves in the wild, with Alone, they actually have to do all their own filming. So they are completely alone. They're dropped off, and they're left to, they're given they have to lug around all of the camera equipment, kind of Blair
wherever
Witch
they go, which is
style.
Like,
and
they showed how difficult that is this season as well in one of the segments, and it was really interesting to see.
Yeah, I guess it weighs a ton. Like they're carrying, they have GoPros, they have field cams set up,
they have tripods and everything. Like they have to capture their moments, because that's the show. Right?
So it's that piece of it is I find makes it it's just next level, because they are truly alone, and that psychological weight of being alone. Yeah. Even if there's a film crew there, if you're not interacting with them, you have the sense that you're at least keeping company with other human beings. But they're being completely alone really does weigh on them, and you'll sort of see that in some of the seasons more than others. But yeah, as Jeff mentioned, traditionally what it's been is sort of whoever lasts the longest out of 10 contestants. This time it's set actually in the Northwest Territories of Canada at Great Slave Lake. So, and it's still 10 people, but anybody who makes it to 100 days gets $1 million. So it really pushes people.
Yeah. I was just about to say how many's left, but I don't think I should spoil that.
Well, and I don't even know. Yeah. And I think before the previous seasons were only a $500,000.
Let's just say they drop like flies every once in a while, and there's only 10.
Well, it's amazing how like a small mistake, whether they're.
I especially love it when they lose their marbles out there. Like, I love that.
When
I
they
love,
get loose on the
when they start like talking to themselves and like talking to their skulls that they got from whatever animals they killed.
And they always quote Walden.
They always quote Walden. And
like, Henry Thoreau from the book, his book Walden, that often gets quoted in every season.
Well, there's a quote at the beginning of every episode, which is really interesting. That you know,
right,
from
that
a
sort
famous
of feeds
quote.
in.
But no, it's a great show. I mean, it's interesting to watch the journey. Because you can sit back on your couch eating your potato chips saying, I wouldn't have done the shelter like that. Oh, no way. Like, you know, but then they make like this amazing shelter out of, you know, rocks or whatever. And it's incredible. But like, I mean, I couldn't do it. I couldn't even last like probably 2 or 3 days, to be honest.
It is next level.
The mosquitoes would just drive me out. I'd just be like, I'm done.
And you know, so the first season, first, second, and fourth season actually were all filmed in Vancouver Island in Canada. So that was fascinating to watch, and it was nice to see it being filmed in Canada. And they've even done seasons in Patagonia and Mongolia. So with that brings different. I found Patagonia interesting because it was a little bit more of a tropical climate. They ended up with they had to deal with the spiders and the snakes, and it was just a different scenario. Now, like with the current season, they're dealing with more big game. There's bears and wolves and. But with that comes, you know, the idea of, you know, really understanding where your food source comes from. And you know, we're talking about, you know, whether it's appropriate for our son to watch it. But I feel like people who have grown up on a farm or...
Yeah, they know animals slaughtered all the time.
And I think if you're eating meat, it's important to understand where your meat comes from, that it is life, you
Absolutely.
know, and
I agree with that.
And life is given to sustain your life. And the contestants on Alone kind of delve a little bit into that, some more than others.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because there are a lot of little subtitles that are flashed up that sort of give you little pieces of information as you're going through the season. And so, for instance, they may come across a certain type of animal that they're not allowed to kill because it's maybe a protected species in wherever it's being filmed. So that'll sort of flash up.
Yeah, those little subtitles quench people's thirst for information.
Or if they're just, there we go. That old thirst quenching
about
info.
Wildlife. And, you know, there's always certain things that they put every season, though. It's like, you know, the body starts, you know, eating its own muscle after a certain amount of days.
Yeah, they're definitely reusing some of their taglines.
It's like pop-up video for like survivalists.
I love it when they show somebody who's like eating some sort of vegetation and they're like, "This is extremely poisonous.
This is elk moss. This is going to kill this person."
This is going to give them severe diarrhea and abdominal cramping for the next.
Many people have left for that reason, just abdominal pain and severe puking, and you know.
I think it really weighs on them when they're out there. You know, how much do they want to push for? How much do they want to risk their own health and permanent damage to their organs and that for the money? And it really makes you value things differently, which I can relate to in light of COVID. I think everybody going through, the world going through a pandemic has learned to value things a little differently.
Absolutely. We've said this on previous podcasts that we're very much focusing on buying local, from local distributors and stuff of food, farmers.
Absolutely.
And whatnot, more than ever, you know. So it's been a good experience doing that, meeting the people who bring us our food, grow our food.
I think that's, we want to make sure that we've seen supply chains, cut off or at risk during a pandemic. So you want to make sure you're supporting the local vendors, and so that they're there when you need them, and you got to support them all the time. So
locally, too, the greatest opportunities to do that is the night market here, the St. John City Market outside.
Yes.
And then there's the Queen Square Farmers Market as well.
On Sundays.
And we have friends that both of our, we have mutual friends that are involved in both of those projects, and we're very proud to know that. And it's a great way to access local produce, from farmers in one, like a one-stop shop. And then of course there's just tons of local restaurants and shops and things like that you can, you should definitely, before you order something online, check to see what's offered locally. This is an Alone tangent.
Yes. Do you want to talk about Criterion?
Yeah. For my birthday, I got Criterion Channel, which is an online channel that features movies from all over the world that have been restored and lovingly, presented by the Criterion Collection. And so Criterion has over, I think it's over 3,000 movies now that you can buy in either DVD or Blu-ray. So they've taken the cream of the crop and they've put these videos online for you to watch or download. And it's like, I think it's $149 a year or something like that. And you can watch unlimited, incredible movies. And I think I've watched close to 40 or 50 movies in like 2.5 months.
Now these movies are, and
which is insane.
I've only watched a few of them with you, but the ones we've watched together, like North by Northwest,
yeah,
they've been classics. So the majority of the movies on Criterion,
they're not. No, there are a lot of classic movies. There are some
and foreign films,
and from all different countries, but there are a lot of modern films as well. Actually just. And they have movies that they're like 40 or 50 movies that will leave at the end of the month, and then 40 or 50 new movies will come in the next month.
Oh, okay. So it's like
so it's a cyclical
rotating
thing. But there are movies that are in their permanent collection, and one of my favorite movies that I just wanted to mention was called Vagabond by Agnes Varga, and it was released in 1985 in France, and it stars Sandrine Bonnaire, and she won Best Actress for her portrayal of the defiant young drifter Mona. And it's such an amazing film. It's one of my favorite all-time films. It's called Vagabond. It's very poetic in its cinematography, and even the dialogue. It's just absolutely incredible movie, and I loved it. But that's just one of many. Like, seriously, every movie I've watched, I found something that I enjoyed. Anyway, Criterion channel is what you would. So you just download it online.
And I think we're going to be looking back to some of the content that's already been created, because we're already starting to see the impact of the pandemic on editing and the release of certain shows and films. And I think we're, particularly with TV shows or things that are...
Well, Mulan, for example, that's been sidestepped.
Well, look at Billions.
Yeah, Billions.
So Billions is a series Jeff and I have been following, and...
we love that show.
It's great. But, we got halfway through the season and they stopped it.
They stopped
and
filming.
They actually didn't even announce it until they had started, airing episodes. And when they came near the end of airing the episodes that they had, they announced that they hadn't filmed any further.
It's insane.
Not that they hadn't had time to edit them, which has been the case with
filmed.
some of the reality television we've watched, that they just needed more time to edit the shows. But they actually hadn't even filmed more. Yeah. So that was kind of disappointing. It was like you became very invested and you're sort of, the way a season usually runs is there's a build up and there's a climax, So we're still very much in the build up of this current season of Billions, and it's a very complex show.
Yeah.
So when they do pick it up, all of a sudden you're going to have to...
It's a great show.
Go back and rewatch the episodes just to figure out what the heck's going on.
I remember reading someplace that we're going to be seeing a lot of animation, because animation is easy to do remotely, Right. So there's going to be a lot of shows released in that respect, but filmed.
I'm not a huge fan of animation.
No, you never have. But you're not really a super fan of the Criterion Channel ones, though, the movies, are you?
Yes,
I forget which movie we tried to watch, but you were like, no.
I try to be artsy. I'm just not that artsy.
Yeah. No, it's...
I try to fake it every once in a while, but...
It was an art form that I was sorely lacking in, so I'm so happy to have the Criterion Channel. It's so amazing.
I love my rom-coms.
You do, yeah. Yeah. There's been a few occasions where one night we watched North by Northwest, and then we watched, what was it? It was like some rom-com that you wanted to watch. I forget now what it was.
No, I can't remember either, but
anyway.
I want to watch Breathless. A friend of ours, Mel,
Godard,
had recommended. So I don't know if that's on Criterion, but that'll be very artsy of me to watch that. I think
that's in the permanent collection too, so it's not going anywhere. But a lot of Godard's movies are leaving this month, and he seems to be a very challenging, from what I've learned anyways, filmmaker. Like, a lot of his films are like very existential and weird,
Well, I mean, I like a movie that makes me think.
Yeah.
And then I like a movie that makes me not think.
Yeah. That's one to grow on right there. Quench that info, people.
So yeah, oh look at we're coming up on our 30 minutes. So
yeah,
hopefully you enjoyed catching up with us. We enjoyed catching up with you. We'd love to know what you're watching these days. So feel free to comment on our media channels. We're most active on Instagram, but also on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah,
and yeah, check out some of what we said, and that painting Jeff did. I'll be sure to share a picture of that on social media.
Once we get some natural light to get a good photo.
No, because I've got to post this tonight, honey.
Oh, okay. All right. No, it's got to be natural light. Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll work this out afterward.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at infoquench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.